let's bring all of these threads together now into a wrap up about language and technology. And so these are some slides that Dan Vanesh has put together, our colleague at Google. So of the 7,000 plus living languages in the world, about half of them have some sort of written tradition. Almost all of these writing systems are supported by Unicode, and we'll learn more about Unicode next week. Unicode is a global standard for scripts and characters. Has anyone used Unicode, or has anyone come across this idea of Unicode before? Possibly the place that you might have come or interfaced with Unicode is in the use of emojis. So Unicode is the body that regulates and kind of standardizes all of those characters, including emojis. So we'll go more into that next week. So of all of these languages, about 900 have smartphone keyboards. So that's about 95% of the world has a keyboard in their language. And as mentioned before, these are, for most of these languages, these are very new. It might be the first time that they've been written. So speech-to-text systems are available for maybe 130, maybe 150 or 200 by now languages, and text-to-speech is available in fewer than those. So in this pyramid, we can see that the coverage of languages with language technologies diminishes as the technology becomes more sophisticated and the access to quantities of data to train the systems reduces. So right at the top of the pyramid, we've got those translation, voice assistants and search engines in language are very few and far between. This is a ranking of language technology suitability by Richard Little, the link there at the bottom of the page. So technologies that are more available tend to be less complex, and as the complexity increases, the availability diminishes. So the most easily set up, the technologies that are the easiest to set up include keyboard layouts, so digital keyboards. And as a language has maybe more data to train systems, then technologies like optical character recognition can be set up for the language. Then we get into technologies like transcription, text-to-speech, speaker diarization, maybe part-of-speech tagging, these sorts of things. And then right at the most difficult to set up for languages based on the needs, the data needs, and the software, the skill sets required, and things like neural machine translation and automatic speech recognition and sign and gesture recognition. So often the first step for a language community to start using language technology is to begin with a keyboard, create a digital keyboard, and then start to put together the larger corpora that are needed for training the other technologies. There's a video here where Dan talks about building language technologies for everyone. That's about 25 minutes, so I'll leave that for you to look at in your own time. One of the most significant points from this presentation is that for people, having a keyboard in their language is critical. And although some language technologies are, as Dan says, super hard to use, so things like speech recognition code, they can be very beneficial. And we'll see in the course that language technologies like ELPIS interfaces to existing tech make the technology more accessible for people, and thus can include more language communities into the global language technology space. And we'll look at a image recognition app in an upcoming module, which does image recognition in language. So for language technologies, we need data. Here are some links to some open source data sets, and some of them are large, some of them are smaller collections of recordings. They may be made by people with endangered languages. So English and Mandarin have phenomenal data sets. So Oxford English corpus, 2.1 billion words in that data set. So that there's quite a rich data set for doing neural machine work. 600 million words for a classical Greek corpus, Russian, 600 million words. Some of the data sets that we've been working with in the Centre of Excellence for the dynamics of language are far fewer. So we're maybe talking about dozens, hundreds, thousands of numbers of words rather than the millions and billions. So this really limits the types of language technologies that we can work with. There are a couple of standards that are used in organizing the language data. So ISO systems are 2 or 3 letter codes that represent a language. And these help with the conformity of to metadata, so that we know that if we're working with a language corpus and it has a particular language code, then we know that we're working with language data from the same language. And data is encoded in these different formats as well. So we mentioned Unicode before. It's a table of glyphs or characters that each has a unique identifier. And